Hello students, in this video I'll be recording for the question number 4 of May 2019, and let us begin with the question number 4. So in this question they are asking that Elliot plays football for OCR and he wants to create a program to store the results of the football match that he plays, that how many goals have happened and names of the goal scorers he wants to store. Now Elliot wants individual players of the team to submit this information. Now what he wants is that each of the player will tell how many goals they have scored, and then the program will total the number of goals and store them in an array. This is what Elliot wants. So in the first part of the question, we are asked what is meant by abstraction. Abstraction is where we try to represent real data into the computers, and we include only those parts of the real data which are important for us. For example, here we want to represent the football match and the players in the computer. So we are not interested in the age of the player, and even if the player name is given, the first name and second name, two parts are there, so only first name will be sufficient or only second name will be sufficient, one of them will be sufficient. And we don't want the address of the player, so we just want the number of goals the player has scored, the total number of goals in the game number, and the list of players. So this is what we want. So abstraction is basically picking out the external details, extra details, so that we don't overuse the computational resources of the computer. And what will be included and what will not be included is a design problem which is decided at the time of planning what will be there in the program. So let me just write the answer here. First of all, abstraction means omitting unnecessary detail. That is the first part. Then programmer decides what to include. Then reduce the computational resources used by the program. So this is the purpose of using abstraction, and it is omitting of the unnecessary detail and including only what is really required in the program. So for 2 marks you have to put 2 bullet points, but if you write all of these 3 points, it will be good and your answer will be complete. Now the next question says we have to give one example how we can use abstraction to improve this program. So one way is omitting first name or second name of player, not both. Then omitting personal details of player, we can have that. Then we don't want the information about the timing for match. So all these things if we omit, still the program will work fine, and therefore we can perform this kind of abstraction in our program. So let us look at the part B. In the part B they are asking we have to describe 2 examples of defensive design that should be considered when developing this program. Defensive design is taking care of various parameters so that minimum errors and minimum output incorrections are encountered. That means we get the correct outputs and we are able to maintain the code well. That is a defensive design. So one method is performing the validation and verification of input. Now what we mean by the validation and the verification? Validation is checking the range of input and the type of input Like if numbers are asked, then only numbers should be entered, characters should not be entered. Then range of input is goals cannot be less than 0. So this kind of a checking can be performed while taking the input. And verification is that you take the input twice, or some kind of a check for user to ensure that the correct values have been entered. Then the second thing that we can perform is input sanitization. Input sanitization is removing extra characters in input data, and we can cleanse the input for use. For example, while entering the name of the player, multiple spaces are entered, so we should be able to remove all the extra spaces. So that is one way of performing the input sanitization. Then apart from these two methods, we can make the code more maintainable by including comments. Then we can also include the feature of authorization, that before entering the input data, the user has to enter a username and password, so that only those who are authorized to enter the data, they will enter the data. So now let us look at the next part. In the next part, we have to the number of goals that are scored in the football match, they are held in an array called goals. And for example, the goals hold this data: 0 in the first match, 1 in the second match, 3 in the third match, and so on. Now Elliot wants to count for how many matches the goals were 0. So we have to complete this algorithm which does this job for us. So how the algorithm will work? We will look at the goals 0. Now these indexes, they are numbered from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is how the indexes are numbered. So this is place 0, this is place 1, this is place 2, this is place 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. So 8 and 9. These are the total number of elements. So what is the length of this array? The total length is 10, and the indexes will be from 0 to 9. Now if we want to count, so first we will look at goals 0. Is the value less than or equal to 0? Is the value equal to 0? Yes, it is equal to 0. So we increment a variable 0 count by 1. Then we go to goals 1 and we check what is the value 1. Now is this equal to 0? No. So we proceed further. Similarly, we will check for each element. We will perform a linear search, and wherever we will find a value of 0, we will increment the number of 0 goals by 1, so that we can count the total number of games in which the score is 0. So this is what is performed here. They have taken a variable number of goals count is equal to 0. That means we will count those games here where the goals were 0. And this value 0 is the initializing value. This doesn't mean that the goals are 0. This means that currently the count is 0, and we will increment this one after the other when we are counting. Now count is the index, that is, it will refer to this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So from 0 till the goal length, which is 10 minus 1, 9. So from 0 to 9 we will count the index. Now if goals of, in the square bracket they have written a dash, so here you will fill count. Here the value of the index count will appear. So if goals at count, that is at a given index, is equal to 0, then the number of goals count is number of goals count plus 1. So we will repeat this variable name, number goal count, and we will write plus 1. And then we will continue in this loop till the goals length minus 1 number is not reached, and then we will print what? We will print the number of goals count, because that is the output that we want. So this is what we have. There are 3 dashes. Each dash is for 1 mark, and you have to write these answers carefully, because if you change the variable names, then you will not get marks. So this is what we have in this question. In the next video, I'll be discussing the question number 5. Thank you.